It is now my honor to introduce our next speaker, Terry Cosby, Chief of the Natural Resources Conservation Service. Chief Cosby leads NRCS, our longtime partner and premier federal agency, a conservation agency known for its network of thousands of field offices that work with conservation districts to help producers nationwide plan and carry out voluntary conservation. Since Chief Cosby began his career with NRCS over 40 years ago, he has held numerous leadership positions and staff positions. He became the agency's 17th chief in May 2021. Please join me in welcoming to the stage our friend and your chief, Terry Cosby.
Good morning. Now, you might have heard this already this morning. Go Chiefs! All right, come on now, let's get into this. I know NACD has a lot of pulls. So last year, when I showed up in New Orleans, you were having this great parade for me called the Mardi Gras. But San Diego is just as nice, and thank you for having us. And I want to say thank you to the NRCS staff that's here this morning. I'm here to talk about NRCS report card. Do you all remember the report card? It's not the one like Gary Blair used to take home to his parents. And I can just see his mom and dad saying, Gary, you got to do better. But I'm here to talk to you this morning about the NRCS report card. And if we stick with that analogy, we had a pretty heavy course load last year. And I can remember back in college, the all-nighters and just studying hard. And Kim is right. It's hard when you're a baseball player, 300 average. But when you're getting grades, you don't want that, right? You want to make sure you're not in that 700% that's not getting good grades. But, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that happened last year. We had three critical pieces of legislation. One, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, Inflation Reduction Act, and also the extension of the Farm Bill. And as you know, I like to roam around a little bit, but there's so much stuff here. I just want to stay here and just talk to you a little bit this morning. We had a lot of agencies' priorities. Western Water Framework, which I'll talk to you a little bit more about. We had the Migration Big Game Corridor. I had an opportunity to be out west to see this in action in Wyoming. We've been addressing and working to restore, manage, and protect working land habitat that big game migrate through. Folks, those animals, those critters, when they come to that fence, they don't care who owns the land on the other side. We have to look at these landscapes and try to stitch those landscapes together. So last year, we spent about $21.4 million that was dedicated to this. And this year, we're going to be bringing Montana and Idaho into the fold here. And I know there's going to be a lot of other states that's going to want to join this, but this is important work. When you talk about urban agriculture, the creation of 17 urban offices. Back in the early 80s, when I was a state conservationist in Ohio, we started doing urban agriculture. And it's amazing the lives that was changed because of the work that all of us were doing. This last year, $7.4 million in urban and innovative production grants, and over $11 million in composting and food waste reduction projects. And then organic transition. Invested $12 million in 22 states to work on this initiative. Some amazing work. I want to talk to you a little bit about delivering results. We knew as soon as the Inflation Reduction Act was passed that it was going to be hard to get a lot of this work done. But because of you in this room, this work is happening. Some of the things that we focused on. First, we focused on our employees and your employees. Over the next few years, we're going to have some challenging times. But when I came into the agency, we were about 8,000 employees, and today we're almost 11,000. And over the next few years, we're going to have to look at how do we bring more folks in. We're going to need about 4,000 new federal employees And hopefully, with your help, there's going to be close to 5,000 more in district employees and partners that work with us to do this important work. We spent about $266 million in agreements last year to help bring some of these folks on. Secondly, we had to streamline these programs. We heard a lot of folks talking about our programs, and we really need to streamline those. You know, if you have things that are really difficult for people to navigate, they don't trust you. How do we get more folks in the office? How do we get this work done? And then we looked at our programs very closely. We started an initiative last year on RCPP. We think it's a lot better today. We heard you. We heard some of the concerns that you had. We've changed that. The other thing, when I've been here, the staff has been meeting with me on CSP. There's going to be some major changes there. But one of the things that we changed early on was CSP paid $1,500 an acre. Wasn't very competitive. We raised the amount to $4,000 this last year. So those of you that are going to be enrolling in the CSP, minimum payment is going to be $4,000 now for FY24. We also looked at Act Now. Have you all heard about Act Now? All right. Thank you, that one person back there. But it was a way for us to streamline how we delivered our programs. You know, when a producer walks in the office, it's great to walk in and sit down with a conservationist, whoever they work for, and talk about some of the things that you'd like to do on the farm. And be able to walk out of that door knowing that you met the minimum threshold score and that you're going to have a contract until the next year, instead of having to wait for months. This is something that's amazing, and we're seeing some really early results. You know, last year, during that time, we had over 40,000 applications, and we were only able to fill, 2 years ago, fill a quarter of those. But with Act Now, we've really picked up the pace here. And then thirdly, we've enjoyed a long-standing relationship with NACD. I remind my staff often why the federal government is part of this whole thing. You know, back in the early 30s, when that first district was formed back in North Carolina, we took care of the local stuff. But there needed to be a federal presence. And this agency that I work for was born out of districts. We were born out of districts. Our relationship is so unique in federal government. There's none like it. We cherish this relationship and the collaboration that we have here. The other thing is, we have to look at this new customer base. We have a lot of folks, I call them repeat offenders. They're going to come in. They're going to come see us. We're going to continue to work with them. We love them. But we also have a new customer base that want to participate in these programs. And we need to do everything we can to make sure when they walk into that office, or if we see them at the coffee shop, if we see them in the grocery store, they have this great customer experience, because then they will be repeat offenders or repeat customers that'll keep coming in to see us. It's so important. I want to talk a little bit about some of these success stories. You know, I often talk about this work that we do at the national level, and there are some personal stories out there across this country that are very uplifting. So I wanted to share a few success stories with you this morning about some of the work that's going on across this country. You know, since we're here in California, I wanted to start with the Western Waters Framework. Folks, this is something I mentioned earlier. Very exciting. After gathering a lot of public input about this, we started on this road in 23, and we're working through with 17 Western states on this. Last year, we provided $2.3 billion in conservation investments that help producers and communities in Western states better steward water resources. That includes a boost of 9.7% of the $213.3 billion from the Inflation Reduction Act that deliver water benefits. We expect to have similar financial investment this fiscal year, and we'll continue to use the strategies outlined in the framework for future investments. If you haven't seen the framework, I would suggest that you go in and look at that. It's really working, and it's really amazing. Next, I want to talk about the Three Sisters Irrigation District on-farm and renewable energy project in Deschutes, Oregon, bringing together over 50 partners, including the Soil and Water Conservation District. The irrigation district has moved from open canals to pipes and now has surplus water to produce hydropower to return to the creek to support fish habitat and restoration. That creek used to run dry every year. Now it runs year long because of the work that's being done here. John Herman, who you see here, used to flood irrigate his farms. Now he has a pivot system and he's doing a lot of irrigation, drip irrigation, and it uses a lot less water because it's so scarce there. And I quote what he said to us was, we could not have done this on our own. This project was a ton of people coming together to do this, and for us. It has changed the way we farm, and it has changed our lives. And that's what we're about, changing lives. I want to talk to you a little bit about the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, BIL. Changing communities and lives have also made me think about President Biden's historic investment when he signed this into law back in last August, the BIL. The law gives NRCS $917 million for watershed programs. I had an opportunity to be in Arkansas. We invested almost $100 million in that community, in 7 communities in Arkansas. Folks, this is a very emotional trip for me when I went there. We had so many folks there that had been underserved for so long, living in conditions that if you had a 2-inch rain, you couldn't get home for maybe a week, a 2-inch rain. We invested these dollars, and I know the state conservationist from Arkansas is here. I want to thank him for the hard work that's going on here to help these communities. And we did this in a lot of different states. And when I was there on the ground, this little old lady come walking up to me, and you got to be from the South to understand this. And her comment to me is, baby, where have you been? We've needed your help for a long time. And all I got to do is say, yes, ma'am. You know, I'm from the South. Yes, ma'am. We're here now. But we've changed the lives in a lot of communities. And this is one that's really changing lives and impacting lives. And I can't be so much happier than to just go back at someday and see this work that we're doing and how we're changing the landscape so people can just get home at night and not have to worry about flooding and some of the things that happens there. We signed an agreement with the Black Mayors Association down in Arkansas. They are the sponsors. You know, one of the things that we have trouble with is finding sponsors to help these communities. A lot of folks not stepping up to do this. But we were able to work with the Black Mayors Association in Arkansas, and they are the sponsor, and they are doing incredible work to help these communities. And it was interesting meeting with all those mayors down there and talking about the needs in the communities. And this is the first time they've really had any help to come out. So this was life-changing. I want to talk a little bit about the Inflation Reduction Act. You know, I'm pretty proud of our team. You know, when you talk about $19.7 billion added into your budget, these are things that don't let you sleep at night. Just think about this. You had I don't know who in here would do it. If you had a $4 billion bank account, and all of a sudden, it became a $9 billion bank account, could you sleep at night? I know a lot of you would be out doing a lot of other things than sitting here. But these are the type things that don't let you sleep at night. And I will tell you, this amazing team that we have delivered last year. 99.8% of those funds were put on the ground. Now, some would argue it's not so much about the money, but it's about the conservation. Changing lives is what we do, and we've changed a lot of lives there. Moving on, a little bit about the Farm Bill. We all know we had an extension last year, but there was a little over $1.2 billion in investment for NRCS in the Farm Bill. And I want to talk a little bit about this young man that you see on the right now. It was interesting. His name is Mr. Liu. He's from Massachusetts. And his conservation plan was funded through the Inflation Reduction Act and included climate-smart practices and forest land improvements. I want to say he's probably one of those new customers out there that we've never had an opportunity to work with before. Just think about the co-benefits that happened here from the work that he did. When we talk about wildlife habitat, he was able to sell some timber and use wood chips, and sawdust were used for growing gourmet mushrooms. And he increased carbon sequestration from the trees below the trees that he harvested. He was a man that we really helped out, and we were glad we could do that. I think this next young man is sitting in the audience. I saw him go across the stage this morning. Phil, where are you? Mr. Phil Campbell, where are you? Hey, I told you I was going to call you out today, and it's for something good. But I'm so proud of him and what he's achieved and what he's accomplished. You know, Phil is a U.S. Air Force veteran and also a beginning farmer in Luther, Oklahoma. He has expanded his cattle operations to add poultry, fruit trees, and a garden. This is all because of the technical assistance that we all provided. We also provided EQIP funding for a well to provide water to his cattle, fruit trees, and crop through drought conditions, and a pond that benefit his cattle, local wildlife, and pollinators. He was so inspired by the impacts of conservation that he decided to get even more involved, and now he's the vice chairman of the Oklahoma County Conservation District Board. Let's give him a hand. I might get in trouble for saying this, but let me tell you, I've been to a lot of meetings, NACD meetings, and what you're doing here for equity, inclusion, and diversity is outstanding, because a person like Phil wouldn't have been here 20 years ago. And I want to close here just with some thoughts. It is great being part of this partnership and all the work that you folks do out across the country. You know, when you start talking about changing lives, just think about those folks out there. You're changing individuals. You're changing families. You're changing communities. You're changing states. You're changing this country. And the work that you do is so inspiring. Thank you for the work that you do. And I'm going to finish this morning now. If you're able to do this, I want you to stand to your feet. This is your wellness moment. I'm not going to ask you to yell, "Go Chiefs." All right, we're going to start the wave here? We're going to do it? No, okay, we're not going to do the wave. But I want you to raise your hands, and I want you to help me say, "We got this." We got this. We got this. All right, I got all of you to get up this morning. I know that it's so okay. I see some of you doing this. Hey, that's good. That's good. This is your wellness moment, folks. Thank you for being great partners. Thank you for the work that you do for the American citizens across this country. And it's just great being here. And then hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to all of you. So thank you for having me.